Hello everybody and welcome to the Teach China Graduate Programme update session for today, the 21st of June 2021. Today we are going to have a little bit of a look and an update about what it means for each of you who are going to be travelling to China to live, work and teach over the coming few months to the coming year. So today's session will have a focus on an update on the COVID situation in China, the impact on programme start dates that this will have, any implications for visa and immigration policies, vaccine, quarantine, China arrival policies as they are at present, summer training overviews with our upcoming summer training sessions, frequently asked questions that we'll cover through, and also the opportunity for you to ask any questions at the end as well. And of course, any questions that we don't field today, or if you're watching this on catch up, please put those across to info@opportunity-china.com. Now, as we've already mentioned, there will be an opportunity to have an open session for questions at the end. But if you do have any questions in the meantime, we have Opportunity China team members who are ready to answer any questions that you want to put in chat at any time. So feel free to pop any questions that you have just as they come up. But we will be having a little session at the end just to open the floor to any questions that anyone might have as well. So let's take a look initially at the current COVID situation in China. Currently, the COVID situation in China is relatively stable, with numbers being very low in comparison to the majority of the rest of the world, particularly with countries of similar populations. There have been recent, comparatively with the West, small outbreaks in Guangdong province, which is home to cities such as Guangzhou and Shenzhen, which some of you watching today may be interested in teaching in. Now, what this has meant that very tight restrictions have been put in place in particular neighbourhoods, communities and towns within these cities, effectively full lockdowns when 2 or 3 cases come up. For instance, in the Nanhai district of Foshan at the moment, where many teachers are who are currently part of, or who were part of the Teach China graduate programme, the last intake that was able to go out before the pandemic. They've been testing everyone living within their community each day to make sure that the community outbreak is dealt with. Once again, this is really testament to China being, quite honestly, one of the safest places to be in the world during these current COVID times. But the situation overall in China is stable. They take any outbreaks, however small, extremely seriously. This hasn't seemed to have a particularly negative effect on the current influx of teachers being offered PU letters from the UK at the moment, which remains low, but unencumbered by and unaffected by these recent outbreaks in Guangdong. But what does this mean for our programme start dates? Well, of course, at the moment, like we're saying, there doesn't seem to have been an effect from where we were last month with this recent outbreak. But of course, there is curtailment, and this policy of curtailment is designed to prevent any spread, particularly when it comes to issues of variants coming into China. Now, there is still a mid-autumn anticipated start date for the Teach China graduate programme. We are still receiving a trickle of PU letters being offered to British citizens, but not that many as is at present. However, we do anticipate that to increase over the coming few months as the UK increases its vaccination drive and as China also accelerates its vaccination drive, aiming for an 80% coverage by the end of the year for its adult population. This is, of course, still subject to change, and we cannot go into precise detail because the government policy will change as and when it is deemed suitable for it to change, which often coincides with new variants emerging, new variants being discovered in China, and new variants being discovered or accelerating in our home country. But from the evidence that we have seen so far, we're still expecting an autumn-November start date for the majority of Teach China graduate programme students, but do be prepared that this may potentially be delayed if the vaccination drive doesn't fully go ahead and evidence suggests it. Opportunity China is, of course, incredibly flexible with start dates, and we will always look to support our participants with their preferences. When it comes to start dates, what we're going to be looking at is we're going to be looking at documentation that you're going to need to have and authentication that you're going to need to have for this documentation. At present, we're not advising anyone who hasn't already been assured that they will receive a PU letter from any partner schools to go ahead and get their police check, their criminal record background check, or their medical certificate done yet, because those documents may expire within 3 months. We don't want to take that risk just yet. But for those of you who are looking to go out, you can certainly get started on your TEFL qualification. You can certainly get started on that as soon as possible. There is absolutely no date that your TEFL certificate itself goes out of date, but when it comes to authenticating your documents, we're still advising everyone to hold fire on that unless you have been assured that you are going to be able to receive a PU letter and able to head out sooner rather than later. So wait until further advice from us on starting document authentication or on starting your DBS or criminal record check application. But please do make a start on your TEFL qualification if you're still looking to go out. It's a great time to be able to start doing that. And of course, for those of you who are looking to go out who may have found employment, may have found a job that is wanting to take you on for a little bit longer, and you're feeling a bit awkward about that, then do feel free to remain within that job. You are not locked to that October-November start. And if you wish to defer to a February start, then we'd be more than happy to do that for you straight away as well. So, with school matching, we're looking to start this as soon as it is viable, depending on your nationality. Many of you who are currently part of the programme will be British or UK citizens, but I know that there will be some Americans, Canadians, Australians, New Zealanders listening as well. It is very much about it being viable for you. At present, only a limited number of schools are able to obtain PU letters, and more PU letters are currently being issued to Canadians, Australians, and Americans. We are aiming for our UK cohort to be able to have an inclusive school matching process, to have you go in together as much as possible. But for those of other nationalities who are coming out, we may have a little bit more of a tiered process. So for instance, a school that is able to provide, one of our partner schools that is able to provide PU letters for certain nationalities, we may let you know in advance if you're interested in interviewing with that school early. So there may be a little bit of a tiered school matching process for Canadians, Australians, and American citizens. For UK citizens, we are looking to start this as soon as it is viably possible for you. It will be a little bit later in the summer. We will keep you updated with this. Now, what are the implications for immigration and visa policies on the current situation? Of course, there's a more complex work permit and visa application process that comes about as much more complex than it would be in previous years, but not complex enough to be an enormous issue. The main added complexity, the main added issue is the PU letter, which will be done by our partners in China for you. So in order to get this, our partners in China will need to complete a PU application form, which differs from city to city. So if you hear of people receiving PU letters in Chengdu, but you're in Shenzhen, you're going to be going in Shenzhen, don't worry that you're not able to get a PU letter yet. It's not a countrywide policy. Additionally, if an American participant is able to get a PU letter but a British one isn't, again, it works in that way too. It doesn't automatically mean just because one person is able to get a PU letter in one city from one nationality for the same job that others will as well. Of course, there is an implication for quarantine as well. So quarantine in China, the method and time frame varies from city to city, and schools will cover your cost. Currently in China, there are various different types of quarantine in terms of length and where you stay. They range from a 14-day quarantine in a hotel, which will usually cost between around £250 to £500, or the equivalent of, in hotel quarantine, depending on the city where you're going to be based, for 14 days. Some cities in areas where there is a further risk of infection, or in areas where the local government municipalities are particularly concerned, there are up to 21 days. And additionally onto that, whether you're staying 14 or 21 days, you'll often have either 7 days home isolation or 7 days of what is called community testing, where the local community leaders who live within the area where you are going to be will come by and take your temperature each day and make sure you're okay. But in these community testings, you're usually allowed out. With home isolation, of course, you need to stay within your apartment. And of course, there are implications for flight availability and connection. There are direct flights between the United States and China at the moment. There are less direct flights between many other destinations in China. In the UK at the moment, there are no direct flights, which means that flight availability and connection is currently very expensive. Once again, we do expect this situation to change within the next couple of months, actually. There are indications that direct flights will begin to resume as Chinese students begin to travel from China to the United Kingdom and from the United Kingdom to China. As these flight paths begin to open, the price will go down a lot as well. For those of you who have been looking at current flight prices from the UK to China, don't necessarily worry. These prices aren't absolutely going to be the same for when you fly out to China. We do expect, as more flight paths open up, there will be cheaper prices and more availability. In terms of vaccinations, this is something I want to make as clear as possible. China currently only recognises Chinese vaccines for visa application purposes. And when I say Chinese vaccines, I specifically mean vaccinations that have been produced, manufactured, created in China by Chinese companies for Chinese citizens. So people may have been reading online certain stories about the Pfizer vaccine being classed as a Chinese vaccine because it's partnered with a company BioNTech, and Fosun, which is based in China. This isn't currently classified as a Chinese vaccine. So if you have a Pfizer vaccine, that doesn't classify you as having a Chinese vaccine. If you have a Sinovac or Sinopharm vaccine, those are the two main ones. These currently aren't being administered in the majority of countries in what we consider the West, or in any countries in the Anglosphere, or native English-speaking countries. There may be some people who have popped over to Serbia or Mexico to be able to receive them and then head over to China, but that, for the majority of cases, isn't particularly relevant. Having a non-Chinese vaccine at the moment effectively makes no difference to your application. And without a Chinese vaccine, then a PU letter is required for your work visa application. Do make sure you keep evidence of any vaccination you do have, though. Do keep hold of your card. Do keep hold of any correspondence that you've had with the NHS, as this situation may possibly change in the future. We don't know yet, but we are expecting some level of mutual recognition of these vaccines between different countries. Now, some of you may also be asking the question, if I've had the vaccine to go into China, I need to also have an antibody blood test in order to fly to China. Will it show, will my antibody test be positive because I've had the vaccine? Yes, that is very possible. There are clear instructions on the embassy website, the Chinese embassy website in the UK, the US, and all other native speaking countries about what further evidence you need to supply if you've had your vaccine already and are potentially at risk of testing positive for a blood test, for an antibody test. When you go to China, you need to do both the PCR and the antibody test before you fly in. So please do consult the Chinese embassy website for full details of additional information that you'll need to provide if you are going to be heading out to China, having already had a vaccine and thinking that you may well test positive for antibodies. When it comes to consular services for practically applying for your visa, the majority of these have now reopened in most countries apart from South Africa. Documents can be legalised and visas can be applied for. These services are currently available, but they are different for each Visa for China office, consulate or embassy. So please do check on your relevant Visa for China office, consulate or embassy what days and what services are on at what particular times. Do make sure that you check online frequently asked questions and the notices sections on these websites as well. It's fair to say that these are definitely not always obvious. Make sure, and they won't always necessarily flash up important alerts. So if you're on the Visa for China website, check recent news or check frequently asked questions regularly on there, because there might be important information that you might well have already missed. For general inquiries, email all Visa for China centres. So this is a really important thing and something that will really help you out. If you are applying for your visa, say in London, don't just send an email asking a question to the London centre. Send it to the London, the Manchester, the Edinburgh and the Belfast one at the same time, because the information will be relevant and the same for all of them. If it's a general inquiry about how a visa works or about how you do something, and very often if you just email one, they might take a long time, whereas some might not be particularly busy and will email you back very quickly. So these are the current stages that are required in order to get into China. First of all, you'll need to collate all your required documents. This is a step that you can certainly go about taking right now. And you can certainly start your TEFL qualification in order to be able to receive your required documents. Generally, these documents are your TEFL qualification, a degree certificate, and a DBS basic criminal record background check. You'll also need to have a CV, several passport-style photos, a medical check depending on the destination you're going to, but more information will be sent to you about the details of that. You'll then want to notarise and authenticate the relevant documents. Once again, if you're not currently at a stage where you are matched with a school where you're ready to begin this process, don't bother with this just yet. We will inform you when you need to begin notarising and authenticating documents. These documents then need to be sent across to your partner school, who will use them to apply for your work permit notification and also your PU letter. This time frame does vary depending on the city where you're going and the country that you are from. We cannot give you an accurate time frame at the moment, but we definitely say allow at least 1 month minimum. Once you have received your work permit notification and PU letter, you'll be able to apply for a visa at the Visa for China Centre or embassy or consulate, which is written and specified on your PU letter. So you will need to specify to your partner school before they apply for your PU letter which embassy, consulate or Visa for China Centre location you will want to be applying for. Then you'll need to have a COVID PCR and IgM antibody test taken within 48 hours of your flight. Once again, you'll need to follow the instructions if you've already had a COVID vaccination. That will likely mean your antibodies will show up. Follow the information on the Chinese embassy website for further evidence that you might need to provide Chinese authorities. You'll need to submit your PCR and IgM test to the China Health app, which again we will send further information on how to do before you fly, and you'll need to receive a green code in order to fly out. Now, with summer training. We are looking to begin our summer training very soon, and we've sent out an email already to all of you detailing the dates and the content of our summer training. We will be hosting a number of pre-departure webinars, which will focus on both the practical elements of what you're going to need to collate and get together and push forward in order to go out to China, as well as your arrival in China, what to expect when you get there, the cultural differences that you might find, and importantly, how you're going to go about your daily job as a teacher in China, the challenges you might face in the classroom, what to expect from students who are going to be potentially troublesome, the day-to-day lifestyles and workings of living and working as a teacher in China. We'll also be hosting a training day. During this training day, we'll be going through several different role play activities, helping you prepare for the practical sides of teaching in China. We'll also be joined by several Teach China graduate program alumni who will be sharing with you their experience and advice. We'll also be hosting a number of Q&A open sessions during this training day, but most importantly, it will be giving you the opportunity to network, to meet, and to get to know all of your colleagues who are going to be heading out to China with you, and those who may well be going to the same school as you at this time. There will also be Mandarin lessons that will be provided after our training day and pre-departure webinar throughout September. These lessons will be an introduction to Mandarin, both spoken Mandarin and written Chinese characters. This was a really useful addition to our pre-departure training, as it can really help you gain a level of independence going into China, particularly at a slightly more challenging time. You of course don't need to speak any Mandarin at the point in which you arrive in China, but we heavily recommend practicing and joining these lessons in order to get some level of basic grasp from that. So here are a few key dates for our summer training. Our pre-departure webinars are on the 17th, 18th and 19th of August. If you can't catch these during their live times, you can catch up at any time. And of course, as always, send any questions to the Opportunity China team at info@opportunity-china.com. Our training day will be held on Wednesday, the 26th of August, from 2 p.m. till 5:30 p.m. BST. During this training day, as we mentioned, you'll have an opportunity to view and attend various different sessions. Usually, in most years, we'd want to hold our training day live in person, but we understand due to COVID restrictions and concerns from many people that might not be possible. So we are doing it online still for the time being. This also allows us to reach a wider number of people and ensure that everyone will be able to catch up on videos who isn't able to attend a session in person. Mandarin lessons will be from mid-September, as I've mentioned already, and will be on a weekly basis. So, our frequently asked questions, well, many questions that are currently being asked to us include when exactly they think our school matching process will be able to go ahead. And I notice Amelia Stone mentioned school matching may be later for UK citizens, so that means likely to be later than October, November for people from the UK. Great question. No, it doesn't, Amelia. No, it doesn't. When we're talking about school matching being a little bit later for UK citizens, the bulk of our graduate programme cohort is going to be from the UK this year. And currently, PU letters are more difficult to be issued to UK citizens due to the spread of the Delta virus, the Delta variant, I should say, at the moment in the United Kingdom. And until the efficacy of the UK's vaccine programme has been assured. We do not expect that UK citizens will need to be waiting beyond the October-November date as an expected start date. But at the moment, because PU letters are being issued less to British citizens, we are not having a full school matching process for them at the moment. But there will be a more tiered approach as our partner schools begin to offer PU letters. We may send out communications to each of you depending on preferences that you've issued beforehand as well, as to whether or not you would want to interview with these schools early before a formal school matching process with all of our schools grouped in together. Shanice, is there a way to distinguish between antibodies from vaccines and antibodies from previous COVID infections? I will refer you, as I'm not a scientist nor an epidemiologist in any way, I will refer you to the Chinese Embassy website for your home country, which has information on vaccinations and on antibody tests and further evidence that will need to be provided in order to show that your antibodies are due to a vaccination and not the virus itself. There is a way to do this. I cannot explain it to you and should not explain it to you, as I am not a medical professional. Please go to the notice section on the Chinese Embassy website for your country, and you'll find information on a notice there about antibody testing for those who have had a vaccine already. It does specifically refer to the RNA vaccines, which I assume the majority of you will have had due to the policy around AstraZeneca at the moment. Luke, are we able to negotiate longer contracts with school? Yes, this is actually something that many schools really do encourage. If you want to stay out in China a bit longer, that's something that they like, and it's something that could potentially go in your favour when speaking with schools as well. Louise, Facebook group, yes, absolutely. As we've mentioned there, after training has taken place, we'll set up a pre-departure Facebook group for everyone to keep in contact with. We're not setting up a Facebook group just at the moment, as we've not started school matching yet, and we want to make sure that everyone is going to be placed with people who know what schools they're going to and where they're going, so it will be a little bit easier for people to communicate in a more fluid manner. Amelia, did you say school matching for UK citizens is likely to be later on in the summer? Yes, that's right. We can't give you a precise date just yet, but it will likely be at a later date during the summer months that we will begin school matching process. Okay. Tom, how many PU letters are currently being issued each month? How many people do you have currently on the programme who are waiting to be matched with schools? So the vast majority of participants on the programme are waiting to be matched with schools. We've only had we've had a handful of UK citizens who have had PU letters issued, but it is still a number, and the first PU letters were being issued towards the end of last month, with more being issued throughout this month. It is a trickle, but a trickle does lead to a gush, which leads into a stream. Previously, there was nothing being issued at all, but there are more being issued now to UK citizens. There is a little bit more of an option for citizens from the US, Australia, New Zealand and Canada. There are a few more being offered to citizens from them who have had them issued. But just for the moment, it is still just a handful who have been offered PU letters, but that is increasing, and we tend to find that once momentum builds, it tends to open floodgates somewhat in terms of people being able to get out there. Amelia, do people starting in February at a public school typically finish in December then? Yes, that's roughly correct. Well, kind of correct. Usually those who will be starting in February at a public school will tend to finish at the start date of the Chinese New Year holiday. So this moves sometimes depending on the date that Chinese New Year is, because they use the lunar calendar. Sometimes in January, sometimes in February. Sometimes the school holidays will begin at the very end of December, sometimes they'll begin late January. It all depends on the individual school and when it begins its holidays for that. But broadly speaking, if you're starting in February, you'll usually be finishing latest in January, if you're at a public school, that is, if you're at a public school. Has it currently been decided who on this program is being offered PU letters? Well, it's definitely not our decision. Our partner schools work with the local governments in order to issue PU letters. The local government will have a quota in terms of letters that it will issue. This quota is ever changing, and we cannot have any power necessarily over a changing quota of PU letters that are issued, and the decision criteria is very much based on the country that you're going to and the city that you're going in. So, for instance, in the south of China, there may be a few more PU letters being issued to Canadians, Australians, Americans. There may be some PU letters being issued in, these are all just examples, there may be some PU letters being issued in Sichuan to British citizens. It depends on a quota of how many have had them, the nationality and the city that you're going to be going to. But at the moment, there's no direct rule or science for really predicting this. So unfortunately, I can't give too much more detail than that. It may also depend as well on an individual PU letter issuing authority suddenly deciding, we want to give a few more. Millie, I've had both doses of vaccine, taking antibody tests, it has negative for IgM antibodies, positive for IgG. I still have to go through extra tests. So once again, Millie, I really do recommend you please go to the Chinese Embassy website and see the full details that they have on their notice page. I can't give you any more information on it than that, as I'm not an epidemiologist or a medical professional. Christopher, when do you get the green light for UK citizens to apply? What's the estimated time frame between proceeding and flying out? As we've mentioned there, we're probably looking at about 2.5 months in total after school matching. So after school matching date in the summer, again, as we say, we're looking at that October, November type start date. Are there any regions or cities that you suspect will take longer to start offering PU letters? So at the moment, PU letters are only being issued really in any way in Beijing and Guangdong provinces. If you read somewhere else, Luke, if you read somewhere else online that someone's got a PU letter in another city, they may very well have. But again, another factor of a PU letter might be the type of job they're doing as well. If they are not a teacher, but they're a businessman who's going in, who's contributing a lot of money to China, to the local economy, then they may make exceptions for that. But I wouldn't want to speculate. I really wouldn't want to speculate, Luke, on any cities that will take particularly longer. All we can tell you at the moment is that the only cities that we work with that are currently offering PU letters to our teachers, Beijing City and Guangdong Province. Amelia, are we okay to change our preferences now to say that we are open to anywhere that may offer PU letters? Yeah, absolutely. No problem at all, Amelia. If you want to be super flexible, do you want to get out as soon as possible, let us know and we will put you forward in a tiered process to go a bit quicker if that is what you're interested in. It's important, really important to note as well, everyone, that we will keep you updated with information on potential opportunities with our partner schools. If you're interested in streamlining the process, if you're more flexible about your destination, let us know. Drop us an email to say, I just really want to go with the first possible school that I can go to. Let us know, and we can look to facilitate that for you. But absolutely, that's something that we can do. So do let us know. Everyone else as well, if you want to say, I really just want to go out to China as quickly as possible. I don't care what city I go to, whatever partner schools you have who are offering PU letters quicker, please let me know faster. That's something that we can do for you as well. If you ended up starting in November, would your academic year become shorter because you would have normally started in September? Again, so it depends on the type of school that you're going to be at. Of course, if you're at a public school, if you're at a public school and you sign for one academic year, then you would still be finishing in the summer. But if you wanted to sign on for a little bit longer as a contract, you would, if you wanted to sign a contract on for a little bit longer, which you could potentially speak with your school about, then you could potentially start in November and look to finish before Chinese New Year in January or February. but that would be up to you, and we'd be able to speak with your school about that as well when it comes to contract length. Tom, no problem at all. We will always try to answer your questions as best as possible, but there are certain things that are out of our control. There are certain things that are out of our control, particularly when it comes to PU letters. And what we really don't want to do, Tom and everyone else, what we really don't want to do is become a forum for gossip or for rumours that come out. If you join Facebook groups about people being stuck outside of China, you'll see lots and lots of things flying in all over the place with individuals who have had individual reasons for being able to get back into China that may be very unique, saying, oh, it's easy to go back into China. You just do this, 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 and this. We are the ones who are currently speaking with schools. We're the ones who are currently working with all of our partners to make sure that PU letters can be issued as best as possible. And we will keep you up to date with any information as and where we get it. But what we won't feed you is we won't feed you rumours or speculation. Excellent. I think that's everything just for the moment. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today. Do please remember to follow us on all of our social media channels as well. We will, of course, update you with important information via email, but please do follow our social media channels as well, as there may be some useful information for you guys there too. But thank you all very much for joining us. If you have any further questions at all, please do pop those across to info@opportunity-china.com and a staff member will be able to get straight back to you. But that's all for today. Thank you so much for joining us and have a lovely rest of the week. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.